YouTubers, welcome back to our channel. We are the Couch Potatoes. Today is Johnny's pick and he's going to tell you all about it.
Today we are going to watch the original 1968 version of Planet of the Apes. This is a fiction film that directed by Franklin J. Schaffner. And it's a screenplay by Michael Wilson and Rod Sterling. Loosely based on a 1963 novel by Pierre Bouillet. Yes.
Yeah.
If I butchered any of that, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
And the film, the book is a story of a three Frenchmen captured by apes, and it tells of their adventures through the perspective of honeymooners who discover a manuscript in space written by the journalists. And yeah, again, it's from 1963. The movie came out in 1968.
So it should be an interesting ride.
Yes.
And this is starring Charlton Heston, Roddy
McDowell, and then
Kim
Hunter
Hunter.
Yes.
are the folks starting
Yes.
it. So
Yeah. And if you're familiar, like, and if you're like listening to this and being like very confused, like the Planet of the Apes movies that have come out like over the past few years with Caesar, the intelligent ape. So those are prequels to this movie. It's all set in the same universe, but this is
where it all started.
yeah.
and only someone her age would think you'd be confused by it. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Okay.
keep in mind these are just our opinions and for entertainment purposes only.
Yes.
Anyway, we'll be back after the movie. Hey tubers, we're back. It's after the movie. Why is
Well, that
everyone...
about sums it up.
Alright, I'm sorry. Do I need to inject a little more?
No.
Anyway,
Go ahead, tell us your...
we are after the movie. We just watched Planet of the Apes, the 1968 version of it. I remember this movie from when I was a kid.
I thought I remembered this movie.
Right? There were I will say a lot of it I didn't remember, but I remember how the feeling of watching. I guess if that makes sense. I remember the feeling of watching it, right? So, and Johnny and I were talking about how it feels really different to watch it now versus when we watched it when we were kids. And I was thinking, because he was thinking, oh, it's just different being a kid and watching it and being an adult and watching it. I don't think that's it. I think it's been like 40 some odd years. So technology and everything has changed.
55 years.
It wouldn't be 55. Did you watch it when you were born?
He couldn't have. He was -2.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Anyway,
Either way, it came out like 50 plus years ago.
Right. So definitely technology has changed. I think acting in general has changed.
Yeah.
You know. So it's very different. There were a lot of things in it, and I think you alluded to that fact that there were things in the movie that it was like, oh my gosh, just butts.
Butts.
Well, okay, there were butts, but I wasn't talking about the butts so much as the actual context and
Okay, so for the ape costumes, okay, that had to be horrific for the actors. I gotta give them props for
wearing these masks.
Yeah,
That didn't move.
Everything was practical.
Yeah, the mask didn't move.
So
Do we need to start from what happened? So the three gentlemen, it starts off with them being in space. And they're in I guess a cryo sleep would be what you would call it, but very different from today's movies and what you would think of, right? So, and Charlton Heston was the captain or the pilot of the ship. So it started off with him having a monologue talking about where they were, what they were doing, and all of that. And they had left Earth. I think it said Earth year 1975.
No, that was their ship time.
Ship time 1975.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
then
they left. I think it was about 75-ish, and I think he had said they had been in space for about 6 months, but I think it had already been about 100 years. I think
at that
on
point.
Earth.
Yeah. So
there's 3 guys, 1 girl on the ship. He's monologuing, also smoking, which is
a cigar in
Yes.
space.
Smoking a
Yes,
cigar.
which is honestly just hilarity in this time period. Like, it always kind of reminds me of, I think it was President Kennedy's assassination, I think. Because I think, like, we watched,
the news and they were smoking.
Yeah, where it's just, like, it looks like someone's, like, home office and both the anchors are just, like, smoking cigars very casually. And it's definitely, like reminiscent of the time. Which, I mean, like, then it would have been, like nothing to really, like look at.
Right, it wasn't
But now it is
watching.
hilarious.
Yeah, that was a little bit of like, oh my gosh, right? And then of course the semi-nudity part with the backsides and stuff was unexpected because you know
it's a rated G. It's a rated G.
Well, I'm
Oh,
just
it's rated
thinking
G.
about the
It
fact that
was.
the movie. I'm just thinking about the fact that the movie was made in 1968. They would have done it, but anyway.
But still,
So
like,
can we get back to the movie though?
Sorry, I'm just saying, if that were to like air like today, or if they made it like exactly as how it was, it would probably be like either a PG-13 or R, purely because butts. Like
maybe.
So it's interesting to see as well just how like even like that much can change like over the years on like the like ratings and like how like risque-esque you can get with the with like the camera work and stuff.
So by the time they landed on the planet, I think it was like
Crash landed.
Yes,
Crash landed.
into
It-
water.
Yeah, the year was like 36,
31.
You wrote it down.
31. Yeah, I did.
I
write
think it was like
down.
3187 or something like that.
Something like
Yeah.
that. It was
Yeah,
it
so
was
it was
over
like-
2,000 years by the time they landed on this planet.
No,
There-
3,000 I think, because it was like
Okay.
3,000 because it was 2,000 years post Earth time when we had originally seen it.
And when they landed, they did discover that the woman had died because they think maybe
air
there was
leak?
air leak or something
She
in
looked kind of
her
mummified.
pod. So she had died about a year before they actually landed. So their ship landed in water, it sank, the 3 men got out of the ship, they frolicked around the desert, ended up in a river, lake, ocean, something, and while they were there, their clothing got stolen, all their provisions were stolen by humans, actually. So like this herd of humans, and then it turns out that the humans are mute, they don't speak in this particular world, and then there is a hunt that occurs, and the humans are all rounded up and taken to some village that the homes I thought looked like the Flintstones, which was interesting. Like they were just very rudimentary, dug into caves, things like that. But the humans were put into cages, they were experimented on, they were separated, and all of these things. And the community seemed to have a lot of scientists who happen to be apes and gorillas and orangutans.
More specifically, I think mostly chimpanzees and orangutans.
Yes, I'm sorry, chimpanzees and orangutans. That's true too. You didn't see a lot of the different species of ape. You saw chimpanzees, orangutan.
I don't think we saw really anything else.
There was a gorilla guard. There was one gorilla guard that I saw anyway.
Well, I mean,
So
the people who are being the hunters in general were, I think,
we're
gorillas.
gorillas.
It's kind of hard to tell with the masks.
Yeah. So there was that, and then the main character was captured. He was injured, so for the first maybe half hour of the movie, he couldn't talk because he had gotten injured. So they assumed he was one of the mute humans, and of course they
They called him Bright Eyes because he had blue
Yeah.
eyes and everybody else had brown hair.
Yeah.
brown eyes. Yeah, and they caged him and things of that nature, and the conversations among these apes were hilarious because it was everything humans say about apes or primates today.
Or
The
just
fact that-
animals in general.
animals in general. But yeah, the things like that, humans were the missing link, or that what was it? Apes evolved from humans,
Yeah.
or that apes were good at mimicry. They really couldn't, or humans, I'm sorry, were good at mimicry. They couldn't think. They had no cognitive skills and things of that nature. So it was really good because it definitely just turned the world backwards as
Yes.
far as between humans and apes. And this went on pretty much throughout the movie, and eventually
the
was
most tech they had was like guns.
yeah.
Yeah.
Eventually, he did get his ability to speak back, which shocked everybody in their community. That famous line, "Get your hands off of me, you filthy ape," was really good. But yeah, so eventually they figured out, okay, yeah, he can talk. And then, of course, there was this whole trial and tribunal about the anomaly that was Taylor
Yes,
was
Taylor.
the main character's name. So the anomaly that was Taylor, they called him a mutant. They said, and they were saying that if one existed, then there must be others. And the thing was, the people in charge, the apes that were in charge, pretty much kept the populace ignorant. They knew what was going on. They knew who he was or what he
And
was.
that would be the orangutans.
Yeah.
Yes.
But they kept the populace ignorant. They really didn't want this getting out that it was not true that apes evolved from humans, or that humans were inherently ignorant and couldn't think, etc. So caused a whole chase and breakout scenes and whatever. But I'm gonna stop talking and let everybody else talk. I thought it was great for what it was, especially for 1968, and it was just fun to reminisce and go and look at something that I remember from growing up. Other people, go ahead.
Well, what was it? The last scroll on the beach scene? I can't remember the seventh scroll or 17th scroll.
I thought it was like 29th or something.
Whatever.
Yeah,
Something
29.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole
Like
diatribe
section
of what they
six.
said about man and how he hunts for sport and
Mm-hmm.
he'd kill his own brother and all that. I was like, that kind of hit home because it was like 100% true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was 100% true back in '68 and it's 100% true back in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was kind of like a wow moment.
Mm-hmm.
Watching it again from beginning to end, I didn't really remember like the whole space scene, but I was shocked at all the symbolism and that it has in it, which obviously as 5 or 6 when I first saw it, or 7, I didn't catch or didn't understand. So yes, full of symbolism. Like I said, there was a lot of camera angles and stuff that were like
That were weird.
weird and almost impressive for 1968. So I gotta give them props for that. I gotta give them props for the ape costumes. It is what it is for 68 as far as the acting and some of the special effects that they tried. But overall, yeah, I enjoyed it again.
So I'm going to take over on this part. First, my thoughts. As old as the movie is, like Dad said, I have to give props. When we sat down to watch it, he had to remind me, hey, this is a really old movie, so be gentle with the cinematography tech that went behind it.
Yeah.
Which, being fair, being generous, it did do well for its time.
Yeah.
Of course, the iconic scene at the end. You maniacs, you blew it all to hell, you dang dirty, all that stuff. Has lasted throughout cinema, was famous because of this movie. One thing that really popped out to me that I want to bring to the table of questions for everyone is, when Taylor is walking with the other two guys, he sits there and says, someone has to be better than man. Someone has to be better than man. Which brought up the question is, okay, so if you find that someone or something, how would you respond to it and how would it respond to you? That being said, you should be careful what you wish for because he unfortunately got it.
Well, I think that was the thing, though. The entire opening scene when they were in the desert kind of gave a prelude to what was going to happen. So yeah, but are you trying to get answers to that question? If you encountered,
Yeah, if you
do you think there's something greater than man, and what would you do or think of it?
Yeah, and I don't know. To me, it's one of those things of like even like in real life, we sit there and go, or people sit there and go, oh well, we're the only living thing in this universe, this, that, third. Others who go, oh no, we're not. It's like, well, someone Planet of the Apes, what would you do
if you ended up in that situation?
Yeah.
I mean,
Good question. If you encountered primates walking around talking, and they were the ones in charge, and humans were just
the
meat
dumb
sacks.
animals?
Yeah,
It would take a lot for the brain to process.
yeah.
I think so. I think it would. I know when they started running, when the apes came to herd them and everyone started running, I was like, I would be like the natives. I'm running. I'm not asking questions, I'm running. Because they know something, But I don't know how I would have responded had I woke up from being unconscious and there's apes and gorillas and whatever walking around talking. I'm thinking, I don't know. I don't know.
It'd be a lot to take
Would
in.
you have taught? Would you have, knowing what they knew, right? Because at this point he knew the humans were mute. So would you have taught, or would you have pretended to be one of the humans?
Well, let's back up a little bit on this too. Okay, it's a movie. It's a U.S. movie, so everybody spoke English.
Yeah.
So
the apes
now,
all spoke
when they-
English.
now, okay, so I would have a hard time believing I traveled 2,000, 3,000 years to a distant planet, and they're still speaking English.
And reading, by the
And,
way.
yeah, and reading English. Okay, but
In cursive. Which a lot of our young people probably can't even do today. But these apes were reading cursive.
okay, so let my mind get over that. So you would think that there would have been a language barrier if you was on a different planet.
True.
Okay, so we'll skip by that because it's a movie. It's an American movie, so everybody speaks English. So okay, so we don't have a communication problem. So we're communicating with each other, or I'm understanding the apes. I don't know if I guess it was if I'm captive, I may hold the fact that I can't
That I can
speak
talk, right?
just for what's the word I'm looking for?
Survival.
Survival. So yeah, for survival. Yes. So I don't know.
What would you guys do?
I don't know.
I mean, he could have used some more sign language, I guess, in there, or more to communicate what he was trying, because he was trying to get the paper to write.
Right.
So why didn't he do this?
I was doing the same thing!
And that would have solved the whole problem.
Right, instead of attaching there. Because if he had done that, you wouldn't have had a movie.
Okay,
Yeah,
yes.
that's fair.
But just,
Well, no,
but
because
no,
actually
I
that would have made it like legit interesting though,
Yeah.
because like she would have to have had to see it and recognize that he's trying to communicate,
But he did.
non-verbally because like the humans didn't even appear to even be like doing that.
No.
Or at the very least at first. So one, he knows how to communicate non-verbally. And two, it looks like he is imitating writing on a pen and paper, which implies that he knows also how to write.
Yeah,
Which
but
would have been like kind of like an interesting like character dynamic as like she's trying to like figure out like how exactly to like show them that like the other people there, while also perhaps trying to like keep it like somewhat
you
hidden.
said people, you mean apes?
Yes.
it's hard to say.
And
It is.
here's the problem with that too, because if you remember in that one scene with the cage where he takes in the cage,
Yes.
he was writing in the sand, Not only did Nova sit there and scrap most of it with more sand,
Mhm.
but the orangutan sat
No,
the
there.
other
it's the
humans-
woman that they
yeah.
put him with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Romantic, yes.
But the
That's
orangutan
because he
sat
did.
there and erased the rest of it.
Right, because the orangutan who was in charge knew. And also, when he finally did get pen and paper and started writing, remember how everybody dismissed that? And they were like, this is a fluke, this isn't true, this is a trick.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how much those in power will do things to remain in power. I mean, that's to me, that was a, and
That's true today.
yes.
Like you say, cough, cough, symbolism,
Right.
cough, cough.
And right, and don't believe your lying eyes. Everyone saw that this man could speak. They saw that he could write. They saw
made
that
a
he could.
paper airplane, which is the thing that they did not have.
And,
Because they were like, why travel for the sky?
and,
That
and
seems
to,
dumb.
and kind of prove Dad's point on to survivability. Yeah, being able to write and speak with that
Right.
would have led to his vivisection. So it's really, and like that said, would you sit there and remain dumb quiet?
Right.
Or would you let your IQ show and possibly land up on a slab?
Or be lobotomized like his friend.
Mhm.
Because the thing was, he was found by a conscientious scientist.
Yeah, a psychologist.
Yes. Who I think was she an animal psychologist?
Mm-hmm.
And she was trying to study humans. She really wanted to understand humans. One of his friends, so the woman died in the ship. The other guy, one guy died during the hunt. He was shot in the neck and he died. The other friend was caught. The two of them were separated. That other friend was studied by a different scientist
And
who
essentially,
had no compassion. When he discovered that the man could speak, he lobotomized him. Because and there was a hierarchy or a caste system. The orangutans were higher in the caste system than the chimpanzees were.
yeah, it seemed like it was gorillas, orangutans, chimpanzees.
Yes.
Because it was, I think it was like the lore master or whatever was a gorilla, if I remember correctly.
You may be right. So the chimpanzees had the knowledge. They were the ones who were most knowledgeable, it seemed.
Orangutans.
Or orangutans, I'm sorry. Were the ones who were most knowledgeable. The chimpanzees were the ones who were more compassionate. And so the orangutans knew what was going on, but they were the ones who were kind of trying to silence everything and get rid of any evidence that human beings, and the reason they were rounding up the humans is because they were really trying to exterminate them. They said that humans were a menace and a pest, and
carry communicable diseases.
carry communicable diseases. So
Guilty
they
of
were
all charges.
right. So they were trying to get rid of them.
They encroach upon your territory, eat everything, and then leave. So like deer.
Yeah, right. So, again, all the things humans say about animals. So that's the reason they were hunting them and rounding them up. Some of them they would put in zoos. Some of them they performed taxidermy. The gentleman who had gotten shot in the neck, he was seen in a museum stuffed, which was very creepy. And so they would do all of the things that, and some of them got transported to zoos. So they were doing all of the things that humans do.
And I think they also
animals.
mentioned circuses as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Zoos, circuses. They would make them, which was why Nova was put into a cage with Taylor. Was the original intent was to mate them until they discovered that Taylor was a mutant or the fact that he could speak, and then they decided, nah, this is not a good idea. We don't want to do this. So they separated the two of them. They were going to castrate him, and didn't know that he understood what that meant. So there was all of that. But all right, so
Warren, we haven't heard.
yeah, what did you think of the movie?
I enjoyed it. again, for its time, like, you know, it's great. Like, I still poke fun of some of the scenes in there.
Oh,
Oh, yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's, even with doing that, it still is fun to watch and very, like, sort of thought-provoking about the symbolisms and stuff. And definitely kind of makes me want to binge watch the rest of the series.
Right. Oh, by the way, Bright Eyes. I'm thinking, and I cannot remember, but in the sequels that Britt had talked about, no, the prequels
Yeah,
that Britt
prequels.
talked about before we
Oh
started.
yeah, wasn't that what they called
That's
Caesar?
what they called, yes.
Yeah,
Initially.
because his eyes turned green because of the formula that they had
Yes.
used.
Mm.
So I found that to be very interesting that they were using that term in this movie. I did not remember that when I watched the latest episodes of it.
Brit?
I think it actually kind of like stands up. Like it's definitely very cheesy, very like
By
Yeah.
by today's standards.
yeah. It is definitely a B movie, but it's kind of actually good. Like I wouldn't be surprised like to know if this was like kind of considered like a cult classic or even just like an actual classic.
It's a
It's
classic.
a classic.
It's
Yeah.
a classic. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Definitely is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Alright.
it's fun. It does kind of like slow down at like a couple points. Like 60% of it is probably just
Setup.
walking around in a desert. But it's still fun. Like it's definitely like a not really even like a turn your brain off kind of movie. Like again, you do kind of have to like separate yourself a little bit from it just because of like it's definitely not like a modern movie, but it is a classic and I would recommend it.
I would too. All right, so
Now,
scores.
You
Let's.
were the camera angle and shot for the aficionado of the group. What did you?
What did
think
you
of
think
some
of
of
like
the-
the artistry, the
No,
imagery,
yeah, it
the?
was actually really good. And again, because like all like the effects are practical, and you could definitely tell, obviously. And I don't know, it was just kind of just like fun. Like you could definitely tell that like there was like a bit of like heart put into it. Yeah.
All right, so scores. I'll go first if everyone's okay with that.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna give it a solid 8. I enjoyed it. Again, part of it is the nostalgia. This is something I saw as a kid, and then like Britt said, it definitely holds up. And then just some of the symmetry or symbolism that had occurred throughout the story itself, I thought was a strong story that we can identify with today. And as far as like the costumes, you know, but for
The
the
period,
time
yeah,
period,
I gotta
they
give
were,
them-
they were
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah,
I
I know
know.
you had like described it like once. I think because we were watching like the prequel series, and you had mentioned that like, oh yeah, like it's like really old, and like you can tell that like the apes are just like people running around in costumes.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, I was thinking, I think something like much worse looking in my head. But no, like this actually was like pretty
It was good.
decent.
Yeah,
like
yeah, it was. All right, Johnny, score.
I'm gonna give it an 8 also. Like I said, it holds up well, like Brittany said. Like I said, I like the costumes, like I said earlier, the storyline, maybe a little slow, but overall, they pulled it off. And for being a, 57-year-old movie, yeah, and still enjoy it today, yeah.
It's good.
Yes.
yeah, I'd give it a 7. Like if you're a fan of like older like B-esque movies, I'd definitely say it's a watch. Yeah.
Warren.
I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. I just enjoyed it. It worked well. I did enjoy the costumes. You could kind of tell with the gorillas that there were definitely people who were like, I had a hard time really paying it. Like if you're not really paying too much attention to it.
Yeah.
With the chimpanzees and the orangutans, you really can't tell too well.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
did
Just
a
don't.
really good work.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
did a
just-
really good
yeah,
job.
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
the costumes.
Don't look for lip syncing.
Yeah,
No.
don't look for that. Yeah. Gee.
Um,
I'm sorry. Are you?
There was one thing else I wanted to mention about. Lost. Lost it.
So, my turn?
Yeah.
So this might come as a surprise to everyone, but I'm going to give it an 8 as well.
Nice, nice.
It is a good movie. Old movie, so
Yeah.
but it is a good movie.
Who's the movie?
One thing Zach just thought about is with the orangutans. Do you hold on? Would you, for the orangutans in the movie? It was to me. It was basically a conversation of, would you hold on to the power knowing the truth, or would you let that power go because of said truth? In this case, the orangutans chose to hold on to power for the sake of power, and
I think it's just so ingrained in them that's their truth, that's their reality.
Yeah.
Right. Because they had created an entire theology around this. Which
Also,
was what the scrolls were.
I was also kind of surprised though, because one of like the orangutans like listing off like some like scriptures from like the scroll, and I'm like, hey,
Some of that sounded familiar.
yeah, I'm like, hey, Taylor, that's the Bible.
Yeah,
Like,
right?
just say that,
I thought the same thing.
yeah.
Start speaking scripture.
Yeah, because like one part of it was like the Bible, I think another part was like the Constitution, and I'm like, why don't you like say anything? Because that's clearly
What they're using.
Yeah, like,
I
like,
mean,
you can use
twisted it, but
yeah, like you can use this against them.
Right,
Um,
right.
but yeah,
I guess
no,
that would be probably a much shorter movie. I don't know, but
Maybe. But no, I get what you're saying, and I think, what is that phrase? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And I think that was the case here. They didn't want to lose that power. And knowing that, if we let these humans evolve again, we will be the subspecies, I think was really what was the driving force there. Because they were already on top. They were the apex predators and they wanted to remain that way.
yes.
So as a result, by any means necessary, we're going to squash this. Anytime you get a dissenting voice starting to speak louder and louder, I think you end up with that dynamic. And we are seeing that in our world today. So yeah, I think that's what it is. So no, I don't think as the orangutans being on top of the pyramid, they were not willing to allow that to be flipped in any way, shape, or form.
Well,
So
at
yeah,
least the orangutans.
yeah, the orangutans.
The chimps were more open-minded.
Right, because the chimps had no power.
Yeah.
Remember, they even discussed that, where Cornelius and Zora, when they were talking, and Cornelius said, well, you've come up, and she said, I've come up where? I'm just a animal psychologist. And he says, well, they're giving you stuff, they're letting you do all of these experiments. She's like, yeah, I still have no power. So again, they were not really a threat, and they would not have seen man as a threat because they weren't the ones in charge. So it wasn't their power that was being threatened.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We'll discuss that part of it if we see that movie later.
Okay.
Because I'm going to put a bookmark on that part of the conversation because that just opened up a thought.
Oh, bunch of
Well,
stuff.
yeah.
Right.
So if we do see more Planet of the Apes movies, I'm gonna revisit this topic.
yeah, that might be more of a mashed potatoes thing, considering the fact that there's like 10 movies.
That may be true. That
Yeah.
may be true too.
So
But for this movie, hey, got some high spuds here. We definitely recommend it. Go ahead, pop it in, watch this movie, and let us know what you think.
So you want to say something for the before? So for a movie as a series, as far as this goes, like you can technically end it there and it'd be fine.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the fact that it continues makes me want to see more of it.
So we may be talking about more Planet of the Apes in the future.
Yeah.
Are we good?
I think so.
Okay. Well,
Spuds
no,
up.
not
No,
yet.
oh.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
Yep. Next up is Mom's pick, which I think is a first for an actual pick, since we keep having technical issues of hers.
Yep, true.
Oh, trust me, I'm gonna make sure that they're not Teddy Bushes with this next pick.
All right. See you next time.
Spuds out.
Bye.
Bye.